Let's make a deal in this lesson where we look at the metaphor life as a business and the idioms and expressions we get from this idea. America is often called the land of opportunity because you can come here with essentially nothing, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you work hard and play the game, you can usually become successful. And that's the dream that our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents came here with. The idea that if you work hard enough, if you pay your dues, you can become a businessman on Main Street or on Wall Street. You can be your own boss. This idea gets passed on in American culture that life is a business. For example, there's a joke about the ABCs, that the ABCs are always be closing. And this is from a movie called Glengarry Glen Ross. Always be closing means always be finishing a deal, making a deal with somebody. In America, where one of the most popular board games is a business board game called Monopoly, where we've got television shows that people love called Let's Make a Deal or The Price is Right, where our president himself was one of the best known businessmen in the country. So it's not surprising we get many expressions that come from the idea that life is a business and the way that we look at life, that the different situations we're in are some kind of a business deal going on. So this first expression here is just general, to be in business. To be in business is to be ready and able to start doing something that you planned. For example, once we get the computer installed, we'll be in business. To say you're in business just means that something is working or it's going ahead like it's supposed to be going ahead. Usually when it wasn't working before, it hadn't started yet. And you can see here in the picture, it's a ribbon cutting ceremony at a business. So they'll do this when they're opening up a business, when they're ready to do business with the public. So they'll say, oh, now we're in business. Let's get down to business. This is a sentence that people will say when they're ready to start discussing an important topic, such as the main topic of a meeting. For example, in the metaphor that life is a theater performance, there's the expression, let's get the show on the road. We can compare this with the expression, let's get down to business. It means let's do the important thing that we're here to do. For example, okay, enough small talk. Let's get down to business and talk about our plans for the coming year. So it means let's get serious about what we're doing. Let's focus on what we're supposed to be doing here. To have business to attend to is basically just to have something to do. For example, I'm sorry I can't stay and chat for long. I have other business to attend to today. And you can see in the picture here just a to-do list. So any kind of task that you have to do, we can call it business, even if you're not doing anything with money. As a side note, I didn't put it in here, but doing business can also be a synonym for going to the bathroom. Like if a dog goes out and poops, we say it just did its business. Someone is all business means that the person is very serious. Maybe they're not serious all the time, but at that moment they're serious. For example, normally he's a pretty funny and lighthearted guy, but he's all business right now. You can see Mr. Serious Businessman here. He's ready to do business. So you can say, whoa, he's all business, or whoa, she's all business. It just means they're very serious at that moment. To mean business is very similar to be all business. To mean business is to be very serious about something. So this is kind of focusing on the situation when somebody's serious about a specific situation. For example, I thought he was joking about running that marathon, but he really means business. He's been training every day. So it's to be serious about something. To mind your own business can mean a couple of different things, or we have this expression, it's none of your business. So the first thing that mind your own business can mean is we use it to tell someone in a rude way that you don't want them to ask about something private or be paying attention to what you're doing. So you can see in the picture here, this guy's trying to look at her phone to see what she's doing on her phone, right? So you could ask, what were you and John talking about? And Jack would say, mind your own business, Jill. Here, she could turn to this guy and say, hey, mind your own business, or it's none of your business. The other thing that mind your own business can mean is to not pay attention to or care about what other people are doing. So in this one, you're telling somebody else to get out of your business, to get out of what you're doing. In this one, it means that you're not focused on what other people are doing. And so you can see here in the picture, this house is burning down and this woman is just looking at her phone. So she's obviously minding her own business. She's not paying attention to what's going on over here. For example, we can say, when I'm at school, I just mind my own business and do my work. I don't have any problems. To buy something. So to buy something is a synonym for believing it, because if you believe the salesman, then you'll buy whatever he's selling, right? So to buy something is basically just to believe it. For example, did your teacher buy it when you told him your car broke down? We can see here a news headline: Republicans buy into Trump conspiracies to blunt impact of impeachment hearings. So here they're saying that the Republicans are believing whatever Donald Trump is telling them. Calling it a conspiracy is saying that what he's telling them is probably not true, but the Republicans are believing it anyway. So the opposite of buying it is to not buy it. So if you don't buy something, it means you don't believe it. For example, he told me he couldn't come to class because his car broke down, but I'm not buying it. So if somebody says they're not buying it, that just means they don't believe what somebody's saying. To sell something is to try to persuade someone. So when you're buying something, you're believing someone else, right? When you're selling something, you're trying to get someone to believe you. You're trying to persuade them. For example, when he didn't come to work, he tried to sell some excuse about his car breaking down. So when you're selling something, you're trying to get somebody to believe what you're saying. But we can use this to mean trying to persuade somebody of anything. To sell someone on something is very similar. So to sell something or to sell someone on something. To persuade them about something. For example, I'm trying to sell my wife on the idea. So you can see here, sell my wife on the idea of a vacation to Hawaii because I'm getting tired of winter. So the difference here, to sell something, he tried to sell the excuse. So this is what he was trying to get somebody to believe was the excuse. In this one, I'm trying to sell my wife on the idea. That means I'm trying to persuade or convince my wife. This is the person I'm trying to persuade or convince. On the idea of a vacation, this is what I'm trying to sell her. This is what I'm trying to get her to believe or to do. To be sold on something is to be persuaded, to buy it. For example, most students are sold on the idea of going to college by their high school teachers and parents. So you could say that high school teachers and parents try to sell their children or their students on the idea of going to college. Now, if the student believes their parents or their teacher, then they are sold on the idea. The bottom line comes from basically a receipt, right? So if you look at a receipt, you have all of the things that you bought and they add up all the numbers. The bottom line is the total. So we use this as an expression to mean the final result or the most important consideration of a situation, activity, or discussion, or the most important aspect of something. For example, look, the bottom line is, I just don't want to go out tonight. I'm really tired. So the bottom line is like the most important thing or the thing you're focused on. Just like on a receipt. When you're going to pay for what you bought, you look at the bottom line. You don't just look at the individual things. To be an asset is a person or a thing that is valuable or useful to somebody or something. For example, being able to speak a foreign language is a major asset. Or you can see here, this I believe is Cristiano Ronaldo. So he would be an asset to any team that he played for. The opposite of an asset is a liability. So a liability is a person or a thing that causes you a lot of problems. So an asset is something that's valuable and useful. A liability is something that causes problems or is not useful. For example, I know he's a good soccer player, but his anger is a real liability since he gets kicked out of games so often. Or here in the picture, you can see a car. If your car is breaking down all the time, we call it a liability. It's costing you a lot of money. To bank on something or to bank on someone is to expect someone to do something or something to happen. It's basically to rely on it somehow. For example, the weather person said that it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow, but I would bank on rain. So to bank on is to trust it or to rely on it. And you can see here in the picture, a picture of a bank vault, right? So you put the money in the bank vault because you trust that it won't be stolen if it's in there. So the idea of banking on something is relying on something is trustworthy or reliable. Or you can take that to the bank. This is similar, and people say this when the speaker is sure that what he or she is saying is definitely reliable and true. For example, I told you they're going to win the game tonight, and you can take that to the bank. That means you can believe me, you can trust me. This is similar to the expression in the idea that life is a poker game when we say that I would bet on it. If you say I would bet on it or bet my bottom dollar, it's the same thing as you can take that to the bank. It means that I'm absolutely sure that what I'm saying is true. The idea here, though, is that you can take it to the bank means that you're not going to lose on whatever you're betting, or you're not going to lose whatever you're trusting. To have something pay off is to have something result in success. For example, people always say that hard work pays off. So hard work pays off, discipline pays off. If you do anything that brings you success, then we say that it pays off. A payoff, so to have something pay off is like a verb. A payoff is a noun. So a payoff is the result that rewards you for your effort or work. For example, after years of study, the payoff is supposed to be a good job. So the payoff is the thing that you get when you're successful. So here they could be a good job. If you go to school and you finish your degree, then the payoff is the diploma, the degree that you get. When you say it pays to do something, it means it produces a good result to do a particular thing. For example, even though you might always wake up to your alarm, it pays to have a second alarm set just in case. So it's the same idea here. To have something pay off, a payoff, or it pays to do something. That means you'll get a good result from it. To shortchange somebody is to treat someone unfairly by giving them less than they deserve. So the idea here comes from when you buy something and they give you change, right? The change is the money that they give you back. So let's say I go and I buy a cheeseburger for 75 cents, right? And I give them $1. I should get 25 cents back. Now, if they only give me 20 cents back, then I got shortchanged. It means they didn't give me enough money back. So the idea of shortchanging someone is to treat them unfairly by giving them less than they deserve. So we can mean this literally with money. That if you go to the store or a restaurant and they don't give you enough money back, that's shortchanging. That's literal. As an expression, it means in any situation getting less than you deserve. For example, make sure to go to bed at a good time each night. You don't want to shortchange yourself on sleep. To get shortchanged is when you're the person who's been robbed of something or not gotten what you deserve. So it's the passive form. So to get shortchanged is to be treated unfairly by someone by being given less than you deserve. For example, I think I got shortchanged on fries at McDonald's. The box was only half full. You know, it's funny because I made up this sentence and then I just Googled fries, McDonald's fries, and I got this picture. Somebody actually got shortchanged on fries here because it's not full, right? They got home and this is what they found. Or here is a news headline: VCE students shortchanged by COVID-19 even if school year extended. So that means that the students here, because of the COVID-19, they're having to finish their school year online. Most students around the world are. So they're saying that by doing it online, they're not getting as much of an education as they would if they did it like normally in a classroom. So even if they go for a longer time, they're still getting shortchanged. They're not getting what they deserve. A day late and $1 short is an expression that doesn't change. It's all these words stay together. And we say it when an opportunity was missed or when something or someone was too late. For example, I went to go buy some toilet paper, but when I got there, it was all gone. I guess I was a day late and $1 short. And I wrote this sentence because this happened to me. I kept seeing on social media people going and buying toilet paper and stores running out of toilet paper, and I thought it was a joke. And then I actually went to the grocery store to look for toilet paper, and there was none. So I was a day late and $1 short. It just means either you got there too late or you didn't have enough money for it. That's what the $1 short means. But it basically just means a missed opportunity. To bargain with someone or to reach a bargain is to try to make an agreement with someone about something. So bargaining literally comes from buying and selling, right? When the person who's selling and the person who's buying have to negotiate the price, right? But we can use this for any situation where you're trying to get two people to agree about something. For example, oftentimes when someone is in a really bad situation, they try to bargain with God to make things better by promising to be a better person. So in this situation, we're using the word bargain, even though we're not talking about money. So to bargain over something is to try and make an agreement with someone about something. So this is to bargain with someone or to bargain over something. The difference here is we use the preposition with when you're talking about the person you're bargaining with. We use the preposition over when you're talking about the thing that you're bargaining for. For example, in government, lawmakers have to bargain over the details of laws and bills before they can get enough voters or votes to pass for them to pass. So here we're talking about bargaining over details of laws. Here we're talking about bargaining with somebody. A brand or to brand somebody is a label or identification given to someone or something in order to identify them. So the idea here comes from different companies and their brands, right? Because you see all these are logos for the company. Now, if you see this yellow M, you automatically know that it's McDonald's because that's their brand, right? Or if you see this one, you know it's Pepsi. You don't even have to see a word. You just see the symbol and that's their brand. And that's the point of the brand, is so that you automatically know who that is or who it belongs to. For example, used car salesmen have a bad brand because they can be very dishonest. So here we're using brand as an idiom or an expression, meaning to label or identify someone. So car salesmen, usually people think of them as not being trustworthy. Like you can't trust a used car salesman. So we can say that they have a bad brand. It's like, even though there's not like a logo on them, if you know that this person's a used car salesman, automatically in America, you're like, oh, I can't trust this person. So they have a bad brand. To be or to get branded, this is when somebody gives you a label or calls you something. So to be given a label by someone in order to identify character or quality. For example, he was branded as lazy at work because he always came late. So to be branded is when you're receiving the label. So you can say that the car salesman got branded or was branded. Here you can say this person was branded as lazy. So originally this word brand comes from like cattle or livestock. So here they've got probably a cow on the ground, and you can see that they're burning a symbol onto the cow so that if that cow gets lost and somebody finds it, all they have to do is look at the branding mark on there to know who it belongs to. So this is originally where the idea of branding came from. This is called a branding iron, and it's super hot, and it'll just burn the skin of the animal. So originally it was for having livestock and marking the livestock, and then it became this idea of a brand for a company. So to own something or to take ownership basically means to take responsibility for something. For example, if you want to be a good leader, you need to own your mistakes and failures, not blame others. Or if you want to be a good leader, you need to take ownership of your mistakes and failures. It's the same thing, to own it or to take ownership of it. So here, to own is just a verb. To take ownership is the noun form. So it's just two different word forms, but it's the same idea. Take ownership of your mistakes and failures. And this actually is the name of a book called Extreme Ownership. This was written by a military member, a U.S. Navy SEAL. And in the book, he talks about taking responsibility in your personal life, taking responsibility at work, but he calls it ownership. So this phrase or this word gets used quite a bit. especially in business and in any kind of leadership position. Now, we also use this in a very informal way. To own someone or to own something is to beat or humiliate somebody, usually publicly. For example, did you see that guy get yelled at by his wife at Walmart? She totally owned him, right? And so I've got a picture here of Muhammad Ali, and I think this is Sonny Liston. So he just got beat, right? And everybody's watching. So this guy's probably feeling humiliated, right? So if he's feeling humiliated, then we can say that Muhammad Ali owned him. So to get owned is to be the person who was humiliated. So it's to be beaten or humiliated by someone, usually publicly. For example, Hillary thought there was no way for her to lose the election, but she got owned by Trump in the end. And there's a picture from a popular comedy movie called Dumb and Dumber. And this guy, you see they're pointing and laughing at him. He just got owned. But again, to own someone and to get owned or be owned in this way is very, very informal. A lot of the times you'll see it with video games. When people are playing video games with each other, they'll say, "Ooh, you got owned," or "I owned you." To sell out or to be a sellout is to betray a moral, ideal, or identity that you used to follow. So to sell out means to sell everything you own, right? To be a sellout is the person who sells everything they own. The idea here is that instead of selling something, like literally selling it, you're selling your morals or your ideals or your identity to get something else. For example, you're eating chicken. I thought you were a vegetarian. When did you sell out? So it's like they've sold or gotten rid of whatever morals or ideals they had. And in the pictures here, you can see this is a rapper named Snoop Dogg. So this is Snoop Dogg in his younger days, when he first became popular as a rapper. So when he first became popular, his identity was that he was this kind of dangerous thug, this street guy. And you can see here he's got his dog, which is probably a pit bull. And then he's got a gun there, right? He's trying to look tough. Now, this is Snoop Dogg today, and you can see he's in each of these pictures, he's selling something, right? He's selling Pepsi, he's selling donuts or whatever. So you can say that he sold out because he went from being this tough guy to being somebody who's just selling products. So you might call him a sellout. So anybody who betrays or gives up on what they believe or their identity, we can call them a sellout. And that's it for these expressions.